With the Elder Scrolls Online Update 50, we saw a big shakeup in the meta with the introduction of class masteries, which made pure class builds on par or often better than subclass builds. After doing some research, testing, and discussing, I feel confident enough to begin bringing you guys all of the updated healer tier list, builds, and more. Figured we should go ahead and start with the most common question I've seen: which classes are best for healing? Well, my name's Doc, your host for all things healing, and let's jump right into this, starting with the Arcanist. Out of all the classes that I've previously ranked, I think Arcanists are seeing the biggest change in their placement, because I'm putting Arc healers all the way in the S tier. Why such a jump, you may be asking? Well, the two class mastery passives that help them get there are Erudite's Rigor and Inkscribe's Verve. Combining these allows for Arcanists to provide minor cowardice, major vitality, major force, increase their ulti gen, and no longer have to rely on skills to generate crux. Even outside of their class masteries, Arcanists were always pretty good healers, especially in 4-man content. Their ulti gen isn't anything to write home about, but it's not bad. Beyond that, they still have pretty strong healing and shielding output and some pretty good utility. But now that Arcanists can reliably provide a 100% uptime to major force through healing, they have quickly become a staple for both casual and optimized trial groups. Up next, on the complete opposite end of the spectrum, let's talk about Dragonknight. That's right, I'm sorry DK enjoyers, but I have to put y'all in the D tier again. Now, don't get me wrong, Dragonknight as a whole is in an awesome place right now overall for both PvE and PvP. It's just that, as usual, they're just not the best class for healing. They're still much better healers than they were prior to their rework in Update 50, but all classes are better than they were prior to Update 50, so DK's spot on the tier list hasn't actually changed. Their lead from the front passive is a good source of major berserk and major protection, especially when paired with their Dragonknight standard ultimate, but outside of that, most of their skills and passives are going to be much more beneficial for a tank or a support damage dealer than a healer. I don't have much to say about DKs that I haven't said before, so let's go ahead and move on to our next class, the Nightblade. Okay, I feel like the community usually falls into one of two categories when discussing Nightblade healing. You either love it or you hate it, and I think I'm going to make everyone equally mad when I tell you that I'm putting the Nightblade into A tier. That's right, the king has been dethroned. Sort of. So, Nightblade healers have always been the king of ultimate generation, and this remains true. When you take their base class ulti gen into account, and then add on their two best class masteries for healers, Nightblades still offer the highest ultimate generation of any class in the game. Pair that with Pillager's Prophet or Crypt Cannon, and you're going to provide an insane amount of ultimate to your team. So, why are they not S tier anymore? Well, it's mainly that with so many team comps going back to pure classes, Nightblades have become a pretty common choice for things like support DPS, werewolves, and I've even seen a couple recommendations for Nightblade tanks. You're likely to have at least one Nightblade somewhere in your team already, and while the ulti gen you provide as a healer is still incredibly valuable, a lot of that utility and ulti gen can be provided by another role. Still though, I don't want it to come across that Nightblade healers are bad or not useful anymore, because they're still a phenomenal healer class going into Update 50. But up next, let's talk about the Necromancer. And I'll be putting Necros in B tier. I've mentioned it before, but even during the age of subclassing, pure Necro healers were pretty good, and they still are. That B tier spot is a respectable placement, and you won't go wrong with being a Necro healer. The only reason they don't find themselves higher is that I don't think healers got particularly strong class masteries. There are a couple decent ones, mainly Veiled Forfeit. Being able to cast corpse-consuming abilities on allies is really good. Though I wish Necro had gotten a bit more of the Arcanist treatment where their class resource, as I'll call it, was no longer an issue to deal with. Arcanist healers' class mastery made it so that they no longer needed to worry about slotting an ability to generate crux. With Necros, the proc condition of healing someone under 66% health can make the mastery feel a bit inconsistent to proc, And when dealing with corpse consumption as a whole, I feel as though Necros could really benefit from some more consistency and ease of use, if that makes sense. Again, B tier is still a good spot. Living Death is an all-around decent healer line. The Glacial Colossus is a great support ultimate, and Necrotic Potency offers some of the highest ultimate generation in the game. If you enjoy being a Necro healer, there is absolutely nothing wrong with that. Please continue to enjoy being a Necro healer. And up next, let's talk about Sorcerers. So I'll be giving Sorcs a C tier spot. Sorcerer healers actually got a bit of an improvement with their class masteries. Calculated defense and sphere of influence, when combined with the Sorcerer's already pretty solid shields, makes them a great option for shield stacking builds. This is especially nice because up to now, Arcanist was by far the best option for shield stacking. It's nice enough that I actually almost considered putting Sorc healers in B tier, but there's one reason that they still find themselves in C tier, and that's the prevalence of Sorc tanks. To the best of my understanding, Sorcerers are making for amazing tanks in Update 50, and since I know a lot of groups will be utilizing that team comp, they would be able to provide a lot of the same utility, arguably better, that a Sorc healer would. Still though, if you have any sort of interest in shielding builds, I'd highly recommend giving Sorcerer healing a try. But let's go ahead and move on to our next class, the Templar. Ladies and gentlemen, I am very excited to tell you that I will be putting Templar in the S tier spot. That's right, Templar is a meta healing class. Once again, nature is healing. In all seriousness though, yes, I think Templar will be a go-to pick next to the Arcanist. Templar has always been a well-rounded, generally good healer, but the class masteries gave it some very strong utility while still maintaining that generalist feel. The two that we care about are Bastion of Light and Bright Harbinger. Bastion of Light provides ultimate generation that is almost on par with Nightblade, while still also being very easy to use. Then, Bright Harbinger provides a good chunk of unique weapon and spell damage for both you and your teammates, improving the group's damage and giving you a big healing boost. Beyond that, Templar still has a very strong raw healing output, the best source of minor sustain buffs, and super long-lasting effects. From beginner to endgame, Templar is going to be a comfy, well-rounded, strong healer for both casual and optimized groups. And finally, let's talk about Wardens. And to end the list on what is probably another surprise change, I'll actually be putting the Warden in A tier. Warden traditionally has been arguably the strongest healing class in the game due to things like a strong healing output, group-wide minor toughness, and major resolve. These things haven't changed. In fact, Warden actually got a small buff to the Nature's Gift passive with Update 50. Still though, there are a couple small things that just puts it a little behind our S tier classes. For our class masteries, we've got Bountiful Harvest, which provides major heroism to our allies, and Tundra's Maw to debuff our enemies with major brittle. These are both very good. With Tundra's Maw, though, healers aren't typically taking care of brittle uptimes. Yeah, maybe we're contributing to it a little bit, but you know who does typically cover the bulk of brittle uptimes? Tanks, which is the main reason that Warden isn't an S tier healer in my opinion anymore, because Wardens are now finding themselves most comfortably in the tank role. Now, please don't get it twisted, Wardens are still among the best healer classes in the game, but in Update 50, if you're in an optimized group, well, a Warden healer might actually be a tad bit redundant now. And that was the Update 50 Pure Class Healer tier list. I don't suspect that any class identity refreshes in the foreseeable future will drastically change any placements on this list, but if they do, of course, I'll make sure to update you guys. Also, please remember that these are just my opinions. I like to think that they're pretty well-informed opinions, but they're still opinions. Let me know what you think of the list, if you disagreed with anything, or if anything surprised you. From here, I'll be starting to work on all of my Update 50 Pure Class Healer videos, so make sure to be on the lookout for those. As always though, I hope you enjoyed the video and found it useful. Don't forget to check out the link in the description to follow me on stuff and join my Discord server. Before we head out, I also want to give a shout out to my Patreon supporters as well as my YouTube members. As always, thank you guys, and I appreciate you. I think all I've got left to say is that I've been Doc. Take care of yourselves, be good to others, remember that you are good enough, and I will catch y'all in the next one.